better count me down. I'm a self-destruct. When it comes to the best, it ain't hard to choose. For your sport shows, updates, and interviews, the only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles, got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Shout out Young Switch. Tuning into another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host, as always. We've got Logan Fulmer, we've got Daniel Alameda, and we're without our guy, Evan McPhillips here today, but we're still got a jam-packed show, a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to get into. But before we do, make sure you guys do us a huge favor. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Listen, boys, it's a lot of stuff to get into.
Oh, yeah.
The Bengals did a lot this week, and part of me is not really surprised. I felt like the Dalton Risner thing was coming down the pipeline, but it's a lot of stuff to get into. A lot of stuff to get into, and I think we should start off right at home in Cincinnati. The Bengals bring back Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson was always expected to be here this season. It was just a matter of when he was going to play, if he was going to play at all, right? Now, can't really say they gave him an extension because he was already on a contract for the year, but they basically ripped up that contract, gave him a brand new 1-year deal, essentially, but paid him at the value that, let's be honest with you, he is worth it. He's worth every bit of what he was paid by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what your guys' reaction was by this when this happened. Let's talk about this. Daniel, let's start with you.
Yeah, man. I mean, first off, I'm excited. I feel like this is going to be a very high energy, very positive, show because, I mean, goddamn, I'm excited. And I think when we talked about the Trey Hendrickson, first thing first, I'm just happy the Bengals don't have to roll out what we saw in preseason as the pass rushers without Trey Hendrickson, because that was abysmal, right? Without Trey Hendrickson, it was clear we needed him. The Bengals needed him on the field. And just when you look at it, there was a real possibility that he wasn't going to be on the field. So first things first is, hey, and I think Trey Hendrickson said it best, 2025 is for the Bengals.
Yep.
And that's my mindset right now. Actually, I don't give two craps about 2027. That's the way I view it. The Bengals right now, they're not in a cap space problem like the Saints are. They're not in a cap space problem like these other teams that have dead cap, that have, terrible situations. You don't have a massive contract that you have to pay next year. So my mindset is I'm all in on this season. And we'll talk about the Bengals in the future. But right now, I think it is a perfect move for the now because Trey Hendrickson is back on the practice field. Trey Hendrickson is going to be playing football for the Bengals this season. He doesn't seem to be holding a grudge, and the Bengals got what they wanted. They got him in stripes for this season. So we can nitpick, and I do think that there is some valuable conversation to be had to where, hey, maybe they should have given him that 2-year extension. But the way I look at it, man, is, hey, I'm all in on this season. I do think that it hurts a little bit not having the security of Trey Hendrickson for another year. But I look at this, I think this is a win for the Bengals organization. Like, Trey Hendrickson got a massive raise, of course. So, and good for him. He deserves that. Mm-hmm. But the Bengals can look at themselves, and I think they got what they wanted. There is zero guaranteed money for Trey Hendrickson in year 3, in year 2, because he's not signed to the team. Mm-hmm. And that's what I believe that they wanted. They didn't want that money tied up. So this is going to be a conversation. We're going to have to address this next offseason. We're probably going to have these conversations, as soon as the season ends. But for right now, it is a guarantee that he is going to be playing week 1. And I think the Bengals defense, they needed this. And that's my number one point, is he's on the field.
Yeah. This whole Trey thing is very weird to me. Like, I'm very glad he's on the field for 2025. And I think at the end of the day, that is the most important factor. We all saw what this defense has looked like without him. I mean, everybody knew it. It was no surprise that they would struggle if he was not on the field. But it's just a little awkward. It's just not really the finale I was expecting of the situation a little bit. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. It was just kind of one of the more unexpected routes.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, like it just wasn't very exciting or anything. And that doesn't need to be. We didn't need to trade him. We didn't need to do sign a massive extension. But it just, like Dino said, it kind of puts us in another weird spot. But the more you look at it, like he got a huge raise this year. It's a 1-year deal. 1-year deal, about $30 million, whatever. The void year attached, yada yada yada, whatever. But what I don't want to say people aren't necessarily talking about it. I think there's a good chance they will just tag him again. And I know a lot of people are talking about how that's not a realistic possibility because the tag number will be so high. But I kind of almost think that plays into Trey's favor because, again, he's going to get another massive 1-year deal, more than he would get annually per year if he signs a long-term extension. I know he probably doesn't keep wanting that 1-year deal. But as of right now, the tag next year is going to be like $36-ish million for him for, again, on another 1-year deal. If he continues to play the way he does, I'm sure the Bengals do that. I'm sure Trey Hendrickson would love to do that. So it's just like, it's setting up one of those things where, like, yes, I'm glad he's here for 2025. 2026 is the question that we will worry about next year, which at least is better than nothing. But I could see a similar result, just this time ending up in a franchise tag instead of a 1-year deal.
And just to add on to that too, I think that, we had one of these comments from Mike Brown's burner account. He said Trey acted like he expects to get tagged and he's cool with it. I mean, when you look at the number, especially, that's the number one thing. And that is a fully guaranteed paycheck for Trey Hendrickson next year.
Yeah.
The franchise
tag
is fully guaranteed. And at the end of the day, if that's the route it goes, then I'm sure he's not going to be fully pissed off about, I believe the number was 36 or whatever it was, but
roughly, yeah.
34. Next year would be at 34.
And at the end of the day, I just look at this, and this was and that's weird because we kept seeing it was not like, it's not an extension. This was a restructuring of his contract.
It was a raise. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a couple things you got to discuss here. And while I'm happy Trey Hendrickson is under contract, so it was getting to a point where they had to have some type of resolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the opposite side was just not reasonable for the Bengals. It would have been not having Trey Hendrickson on the football field. And that's just not a world they wanted to live in. That's not a world that they wanted to operate in, right? So it was one of those things where they sort of had to find themselves, they're back against the wall. Trey Hendrickson even said himself, at no point was a raise brought up, throughout this process until it recently became a recent development. It was clear they weren't going to agree on the years, the guarantees beyond year one. But then the Bengals finally caved and said, hey, you know what? How about we just give you a raise, right? $15 million raise or something close to that. I think it came in at $29.5 million with a couple of incentives based. How about we just do that? And then from there, we'll revisit the situation, because make no mistake about it. The reason why Trey Hendrickson was upset was not because he, necessarily didn't want to play. When he signed his contract, he signed it for a bargain at the time, right? He went on to have 2 17.5 sack seasons, so he was getting underpaid for sure. So he's saying, hey, you know what? I was supposed to make $18.6 million this year. I'm not getting paid, I'm not getting paid like the rest of my colleagues, right? My peers in the league. I should be getting paid like the rest of my peers in the league. So what are we going to do about that said thing, Bengals? So then the Bengals had it. You say, you know what? We'll do right by Trey. We'll give you a raise, right? But make no mistake about it. Everybody wants the outcome to be a long-term extension. To your point, the reason why Trey Hendrickson probably in his mind does not have an issue with the franchise tag next year. I mean, all players want security, but how much security can you get from you getting paid $30 million this year, basically, let's call it that. And then if they franchise tag, you're getting paid $34 million a year. At that point, the years really don't matter, because Trey Hendrickson's probably entering a point in his career where year to year to year, you know what? You don't know what it's going to look like. Yeah. Sure, do you want that security? But if the team, the Cincinnati Bengals, are not willing to give you a franchise tag you, right? I'm sorry, if they're not willing to give you a long-term contract extension, but they franchise tag you for $34.5 million, well, that's a guarantee right then and there. It's not the guarantee we all want. But let me tell you something why else this might play into the Bengals' hand. Back to what Evan, me, and the guys were all saying on the show, when you look at it, who do the Bengals have to pay? They don't have any contracts coming up. The big name guys have already gotten paid. And somebody said the best, unless Cam Taylor-Britt turns into a modern day Darrelle Revis, or unless, one of these guys goes absolutely off and, Geno Stone leads the league in interceptions and stuff like that, and you're looking to pay him a ridiculous amount of money, you really don't have anybody else coming up right now.
Yeah.
The Bengals' logic to me still stumps me a little bit in terms of, hey, we're gonna bet on you falling off versus guaranteeing money into year 2. Because if they guaranteed money past year 1, this deal would be done.
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson will be a Bengal. But again, this is them being burnt from the Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap deal. So they're still dealing in the lands of what if.
Yeah.
Now it's up to Trey Hendrickson to go out there and pay him to improve himself and prove that, hey, you know what? I'm worth every bit of money. So, at the end of the day, we're looking at it, man. And, I'm looking at it right now saying, you know what? I think the Cincinnati Bengals understood that the drama had to cease. I think they realized it's time to get to football. We are a week out from playing the Cleveland Browns. We need to make sure that we have all hands on deck. And any talk of the Cincinnati Bengals defense resurgence has to start with number 91 being on the football field. And with him not being on the football field, well, that's a non-starter for this team. But make no mistake about it. You hang your hat and you say, hey, you know what? Job well done to the Bengals front office for caving and saying, you know what? Outside of the whole, you're going to honor your contract, because that's the talk that was before. They had to realize, hey, you know what? We had to make this happen. Somebody said Karras is up again next year. Yes, but Karras is probably going to be around the range he's been making, right? And then if you look at it, there's other guys that may be coming up on the roster that might be able to challenge for the starting center job in the future. Guys like Matt Lee, where we don't know. Ted Karras, older guy at this point. We never know how long guys want to necessarily play, but I feel like Ted Karras has a lot of good football left, and he just loves Cincinnati as well. And I think he's viewed a lot highly in Cincinnati than he probably is around the league. But this is a win. This is a win.
Yeah, and one thing on that too, I feel like Bengals fans, everybody should understand, and hopefully they understand, the Bengals have it very good right now. Yeah. You look at many other teams with who is coming up under contract for all these other teams. The Bengals have it phenomenal, and that is whether that's a credit to their front office being smart with money or just not developing guys enough to deserve that contract. The Bengals are in a phenomenal position right now. They have their franchise quarterback. They locked up their elite talents already. And you're not burnt by your cap space next year. They are in a phenomenal spot. And like you said, Malik, Ted Karras, okay, sure, he's he's up for free agency. He's not going to cost that much. It's not like you are cap strapped. And the same thing, Cam Taylor-Britt, Dax Hill, if they were to ball out, they're still not even going to crack $25 million. You are in a phenomenal spot, and we'll obviously get to this, but this team is ready to at least compete for a Super Bowl now.
And one thing I just want to touch on really quickly, Orlando Brown Jr. is up for contract. Somebody asked about him. He's on a contract for the next 2 years. So, and I'll be honest with you, Orlando Brown Jr., that's my dog. That's my guy. He's probably going to do, again, the Bengals will pay him when the time comes, right? I think he is, but I don't think he's necessarily put up the numbers that are probably going to just break the bank like some of these other guys. And this seems like a guy that's more fighting for his legacy at this point. Like, he wants to prove that, hey, he can play left tackle in the National Football League. And Cincinnati, when he picked Cincinnati, like we talked about, it was a very he was very strategic when he picked the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't see them necessarily not being able to come to an agreement with him based on money. It's going to be, do they want to continue down that road, or do they want to bring somebody younger? And I think they've probably learned from their Andrew Whitworth debacle, if you will. And I'm not saying Orlando Brown Jr. is on the same level as Andrew Whitworth was, but he has been stable at the left tackle position for the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's something that you need. He hasn't been just absolutely getting obliterated out there. This guy's a multi-time Pro Bowler, and he has dealt with injuries. He's dealt with some really injuries. He's still been out there and he's fought for this team. So I'm expecting a bounce back year from OBJ as well. So we'll see what happens. But the interesting thing about the cap and all that stuff goes up, right? And then, we haven't even really talked about it, but there's still potentially some offloading in the future of some guys' contract, right? Well, what happens with, I don't want to talk about anybody's demise necessarily, but I do want to bring this up briefly. What happens if Logan Wilson has another bad year? Yeah. What does that look like then, right? Yep. That probably looks like you moving off of that contract, because then at that point, it looks like a bad investment. Maybe you feel better about the younger linebackers that you have coming up. Maybe you don't. I have no idea. But there's always, the thing about the NFL, as the cap goes up, the expectation for a lot of these guys to play better, to get better, it goes up as well. Cincinnati is definitely going to be a hotbed destination for a very long time for some free agents that are going to want to come here as well. I'm excited to talk more and more about this with you guys as we continue throughout this conversation. But again, if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Also, drop your questions down in the comment section. We want to get to your questions today. This is going to be an interesting show because we're going to talk things through. We're going to answer as many questions as possible. I think I might have a little bit of different take or outlook on things, but we'll give the Cincinnati Bengals front office for finding a solution to this. But I will say this should have been probably nipped in the bud. It would have probably prevented a lot of more of headache than it was, because just to be clear, there was a point in time where they were talking about guarantee money in year 2. That's when everybody thought the deal was going to get done, and the final offer they had sent was not guarantees into year 2, which is what led us to this point, him going back to Florida and holding out and all this stuff. But he's here now, so we're grateful for that. We're moving on to that, guys. I want to talk to you guys really quickly about the winners and losers of cut down day. We saw a lot of the Bengals move on from a lot of people. Cal DeMatteis is one of the people we saw the Bengals move off of, and Wagner is a guy that took over the long snapper job. That shocked some people. I just noticed one thing: every single time that guy was long snapping out there, he was just fired up. He seemed like a kid in a candy store. He seemed to be jacked up, really, really excited about that. I just look at it, man, and I say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of guys out there, man, that I thought that there were some moves that I thought were a little bit shocking, but some guys also landed back on the practice squad for the Bengals, and you're sort of happy that was the end result. Guys like Seth McLaughlin, I'm happy that he went back on the Bengals practice squad. Isaiah Williams, a guy that's done some nice things here in Cincinnati. Guys, were there any cut down surprises for you? I mean, Cordell Wilson was a huge one, but is there anyone else that really stood out to you guys? And maybe you want to touch more on Cordell Wilson cut.
I think for me, the biggest, I don't know, I go back and forth on it. The keeping 5 tight ends thing just doesn't make much sense to me. Like, I understand Gesicki is not necessarily a tight end, but he still occupies the tight end snaps, whether he's used as a tight end or not. That's the role he's playing. And you obviously have Drew Sample, whose role is what it is. You brought in Noah Fant for a reason. So then you have McLaughlin, or not, you have Hudson and Grandy. And it's just like, I don't see the world where both of them are playing meaningful snaps. And I know Hudson contributes in, special teams and some of these things. And Grandy's more that sample backup. But still, just keeping 5 tight ends when, you kind of have your obvious rotation. You just went out and signed, Noah Fant, like that. That's kind of a confusing little thing to me. Maybe that's not something that sticks. Maybe they'll cut one of them after Risner here, or maybe somebody else along the road. But I just, again, I get the whole Gesicki argument, but it still just doesn't make much sense to me to keep 5 tight ends on this roster right now.
Yeah, I think that when you look at it, I understand where you're coming from, and I think the one like Tanner Hudson, for example, right? Like, we're having this conversation. When's he gonna play? And I think there's a realistic chance that the Bengals, they just like him, and whether he is a safety net for a Gesicki or Noah Fant injury, maybe. But like you said, Drew Sample is very clearly going to be used. Grandy is likely the backup for Drew Sample. I think the Bengals, they must just want to be extremely confident in that room. And I think it definitely hurts everywhere else. But at least we can say, hey, I've got no concerns about this tight end room this season. And just looking at the rest of these guys, I think I was kind of, shocked with looking at like some of these guys like Isaiah Thomas. He was the guy, he absolutely balled out in the Colts game. And I thought he actually looked decent, as a pass rush. I don't know if he got signed back to the practice squad. Perfect. So besides that, the rest of these guys, nothing was too shocking. Like I said, I think I'm excited to see this linebacking room. I'm ecstatic that they kept Shaka Hayward. Obviously, Zhang Meta was a fan favorite, and he got waived, and he's not on the 53-man roster. But I'm looking at this linebacker room. I'm happy with the way it shaped out. And the only other thing is just looking at the safety room. That's going to be the biggest question mark of these back-end guys. Do they love PJ Jules, or, what's the strat behind the starters? Is Tyson Anderson going to get real snaps this season? So the rest of these guys, it was kind of all to be expected. But like I said, I think that I'm excited to see who else that they go out and not necessarily add, but they've got to cut somebody else too, because Risner, I believe. So I'm curious to see who they cut there. But besides that, I think the roster, we'll talk about this roster. Offensive side looks good. Backup tackles, I mean,
I don't know what's going on there. I guess it's Ford and Rivers. I guess
Rivers, Cody Ford. That's probably your situation. I think they're confident in Cody Ford, and especially the fact that you go out and you add Dalton Risner. I think that kind of clears up the inside. But I mean, besides that, the rest of these guys, like I said, I wasn't really too shocked with like the rest of these guys getting cut. But I
would say, like, the Cordell Wilson thing, obviously with the injury, he's expected to miss the entire season. He's back with the Bengals practice squad, which I also thought was interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Very strange, right? But I think that a lot of it was a roster maneuvering. I do think a guy like Seth McLaughlin could find himself being called up on this roster at some point once he's 100% ready to go and the Bengals feel like he's ready to stand out. Those are things I'm just excited about.
Eric Gregory
was a huge winner. Huge winner. Howard Cross was a huge winner. We saw them move off of Taven Bryan.
Yeah.
A guy that had a nice preseason for the Cincinnati Bengals, hoping that he finds his footing somewhere. But those are two young interior defensive linemen. One of those guys has experience with the Bengals' new defensive coordinator, Al Golden. But you like to see him get a shot, right? How about what's the safety?
PJ Jules.
PJ Jules, man. Him getting a shot to make this roster. I'm always weird about talking too early about some of the guys or some of the shocks that the Bengals have made, because at the end of the day, we don't know who's going to be the odd man out when the Bengals make this cut. Yeah. We could still see them add somebody else. Yeah. Right? We just don't know. I'm not going to be the one to say for a fact that Cam Grandy's going to make this roster for sure just yet. I got to wait to see how it all shakes out. But I think overall you walk away and you feel like this was a competitive cut. This was a competitive roster cut. We saw guys like Mitchell Tinsley make the roster. And will he play significant snaps ever for the Bengals this season? I don't know if I'm expecting that necessarily, but it is really, really good to see some guys shock and make some spots. And I think that also some of the injuries that the Bengals face, guys like Dejon Anthony starting the season,
sucks.
It kind of opened up the door for some maybe unforeseen guys staying aboard for the Bengals.
Yeah, and I just looking at this too, and once again, I always make this comment, but I feel like looking at some of these spots where they have depth, the Bengals they should not be taking this for granted, because you look at a lot of these other places, obviously offense side of the ball, but you look at the receivers, there's not a lot of receiver rooms that have a Jermaine Burton at 4. Yeah. That have even a Tinsley at 5, 6. Yeah. And then the tight end room, same thing. And even now you look at the offensive line, the offense looks spectacular on paper. Yeah. And the defense, I've got a feeling we're going to be talking about these guys, whether it's a Gregory, whether it's a PJ Jules. I think we're going to be talking about these guys later on in the season. Those are the guys there. I think they're going to end up getting some big time snaps, and we'll see how it shakes out.
One thing I want to touch on is Cam Grandy spent, I believe, a big chunk of the last season on the Bengals practice squad. So that's a life that he's used to living, respectfully. Yeah. Somebody said Ben Tanucci said Cross wasn't a huge winner. The heck did y'all see Cross doing for y'all to say he was a huge winner? Well, he had a very good final preseason game. One of what I'll say is, well, let's also talk about this. He's still in the roster.
He made the team. That's pretty big for him.
That's not like what I'm referring to when I said he was a huge winner. The fact that he's stuck on the 53-man roster as it currently stands, that is a huge win for him. That's a guy that, to be honest with you, I thought he sucked his first game.
He was.
I thought he showed absolutely nothing. But I think that this is a guy that Al Golden obviously believes in. He's a guy that he thinks that he can execute, and he thinks he can get the most out of. I will say, as the preseason went on, Howard Cross looked better. Not against, you could say it's against the competition, maybe. Yeah. I do think Howard Cross needs to get stronger. Mm-hmm. He looked weak at points. Pushing the pocket. I thought he looked weak, but I thought that final preseason game is where he really balled out.
And I don't want to necessarily call it a loser yet, but I'm interested to see who the corresponding cut is for Risner, because I think
it won't be from the offensive
line. No, I think everybody's mind goes to either Cross or Gregory. I understand that, I can see that, but if it's not one of them two, if they go to Grandy, I think a loser then becomes McKinley Jackson pretty quickly. Because if you're keeping 2 UDFA defensive tackles, that means you're not very comfortable with your backing guy, and he's that guy, and he didn't have a very good preseason either. So maybe that's just completely irrelevant tomorrow when they cut one of them for Risner, but he didn't have a great preseason either. And them keeping 2 UDFAs probably isn't the best look for him either.
Ben, I want to also say, maybe you missed that point, my brother, but we also said Eric Gregory. We said Eric Gregory and Howard Cross. Eric Gregory was the first name we mentioned. And then we mentioned Howard Cross. Eric Gregory is a huge winner. Eric Gregory had a very good preseason. Mm-hmm. He showed a lot. The reason why I think Howard Cross has stuck so far is because either Al Golden has faith in him. We believe that this guy's going to continue to mature in his scheme. Or maybe he's not confident in the depth behind the starters. Maybe he feels like, hey, maybe the starters have dealt with some injuries. We obviously know BJ Hill's been banged up, for whatever reason. These are the guys that they decided to run with. We'll see exactly what happens. But I think that Eric Gregory was a huge get. I'm still shocked the guy went undrafted. If you ask me. But this is going to be a competitive room, and this is going to be a competitive room. It would suck to see McKinley Jackson, though, lose out on snaps because McKinley Jackson, I thought he showed a lot of promise last year. We turn on that Giants game last season. I just felt like McKinley Jackson was a wrecking ball there. I know we did it already, but guys, I'll be honest with you, I'm still shocked that we brought back BJ Hill. A part of me is so shocked that we brought
for
back
the
BJ
contract we gave
for the
him
contract
too,
you gave
bro.
him.
Yeah,
I'm still shocked because
I'm
I
a big
felt
fan
like
of that.
I just felt like it had run its course.
Yeah.
And that's just me, right? It defies the whole we don't pay 30-year-olds thing. One,
Yeah, why is that the exception you made it for?
yeah, I
Like
thought that was strange. Because I didn't think he was overly dominant. I didn't think he was.
No.
You know, it was just an interesting move. And then I feel like the guys that you have in that spot, guys like Chris Jenkins, BJ Hill, there. I don't know. We can
And there was a
No,
ton of free agent DTs too, and there's a ton in the draft. It's not like it was the one time where keeping him for shorter and getting somebody else would have made a ton of sense. But I don't know if it's the Reader thing that they felt like we needed to bring him back, but it was just weird.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think when I look at the contract too, and this goes to like one of Jacqueline's questions, like, hey, if somebody gets hurt, who's the guys that step up? First off, like BJ Hill, if there is no BJ Hill, like you could have drafted somebody else. You could have went to free agency, but the 10 to 12 million, whatever he got, is a hefty price to pay. But like I said, these guys, McKinley Jackson, Eric Gregory, DJ Ivey, Josh Newton, Marco Wilson, if there's one injury to any starter, those guys are playing. And that's what's extremely key about having that depth. So we'll see how those guys do.
Man, little side note, guys. Obviously college football is back.
Yep.
Right? This week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you guys what I'm excited for the most? This little side note. I'm excited.
Is this sarcastic?
No.
Okay.
Just being honest. I'm really, really excited. And I'm gonna give you guys a college football betting tip.
Oh.
You're always gonna have those games, especially if you're a Kentucky fan, Jimmy. You're always gonna have those games where the favorite always comes out slow, starts out slow, and they're down by 14 points going into halftime, right? And you're able to live bet that, Logan.
Yeah.
You're able to throw a huge chunk of money. When I say I cashed in so much money last year, guys, on live betting college football. So, I just wanted to make that quick little announcement. If you guys want a little trick on how to do well, definitely live bet. Definitely live bet. Even my UFC bets, man. I've been live betting UFC the last few weeks. We turned in an $80,000 day. $80,000 day. What was it, Daniel?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Two weeks ago. We turned an $80,000 day just betting, live betting stuff. But that's just a little side note. I'm excited because obviously we'll have the TWSN Patreon back up and running, and we'll be giving out our best bets and stuff like that. So, we'll definitely have our bets for Bengals stuff as well. But I want to keep the conversation rolling, man. Listen, the Bengals finally went out and they signed Dalton Risner. Risner, I'm sorry. Finally went out there and they signed Dalton Risner. And I'll tell you right now, man, I've been campaigning for Dalton Risner. I've been campaigning for Noah Fant. I've been campaigning for Mike Gesicki for the longest time. And the fact that this has finally come to fruition, it's a good feeling, but it's a feeling that I feel like it's something that probably should have happened a little while ago. I saw people talking saying that, Dalton Risner is not, shouldn't easily come in and be the starting right guard of the Bengals. Let me just ask you a simple question. Who's better? The fact that Dalton Risner was still available at this point should say a lot. And every year you have teams that are interested in veteran players after the training camp, because sometimes veteran players don't want to go through training camp, whatever the case may be. I don't know if I got that notion that was it for Dalton Risner, but I think that Dalton Risner was hoping that he would get a bigger payday, maybe.
Yeah.
And by a bigger payday doesn't necessarily mean an 18 million, not necessarily that, but just a team wanting to want him, basically. The same goes for when Mike Gesicki was here. People will look at how other players' journeys sort of turned out, right? And they'll say, hey, well, there must be something wrong with them. For about 2 years, I've been campaigning for Dalton Risner to become a Bengal, maybe 2-3 years. And I've heard people talk about he's not a good teammate. I've heard about people talk about, well, he's injury prone. Well, it's his inability to run block. And a lot of that chatter was very similar to the talk with Mike Gesicki. Well, he's not a good run blocker. Because of how players maybe have been mismanaged, or maybe the market isn't what people expect it to be, that will really create a narrative around your name that maybe you're just not worthy, or you're just not good enough to be on a roster. When I watch Dalton Risner play football, I walk away saying, you know what? I think that this guy is a damn good starting right guard in the National Football League, for especially what the Bengals would do. For any other team, this might be looked at as a whatever move, but for the Bengals, because they're such a pass-happy team, this is such a huge move. And the fact that you're able to get him a week before the season starts is even greater. I even have seen people saying him and Lucas Patrick are on the same level.
Huh.
Let me just say that right now. That is beyond disrespectful on so many levels. The fact of the matter is the Bengals were able to get Dalton Risner. And make no mistake about it, the only reason why he may not start week 1, which I expect him to start week 1, but the only reason why he may not start week 1 is from pure readiness, from not grasping the offense, not being ready to just jump in there. I say this, man. You know, I think that this guy, and I said it a long time ago, I think that this guy has the ability to be the Mike Gesicki of, you know, for the Cincinnati Bengals this year. And what I mean by that is a guy that everybody cast off, everybody said was not good enough. Everybody was not willing to allocate dollars to and, you know, just believe in this guy long term. I think that this is going to be the resurgence in Dalton Risner's career that he needed, the same way Mike Gesicki was. Do you remember what the conversation was when Mike Gesicki got signed, guys? Mm-hmm. Do you remember what people were saying? Hayden Hurst was better than him.
CJ
Uzomah was better than. Remember that conversation?
Yeah,
because of his mismanaged and his misusage with the Miami Dolphins his last year there and with the New England Patriots. That's what the conversation was. And these guys, you know, making any change to go to a different team, putting your eggs in a basket, man, is a lot. Yeah. You know, it's a lot for a lot of these professionals. And to be honest with you, this was a big decision for a guy like Dalton Risner. But let me tell you guys why it was such a huge move, in my opinion. Dalton Risner has the ability to be the Bengals' answer at the right guard spot for at least the next 2 to 3 years. Hear me out. Before you say, Malik, you don't even know what you're talking about. Before you say, Malik, you're stupid. Before you say, Malik, this is a 1-year rental because Jalen Rivers is the future at guard. The Bengals didn't even play the guy Jalen Rivers at guard until recently. They view him as a tackle, but they also view him as a guy that they want to be able to move in or not. Let me explain to you why Dalton Risner could be the answer for the Bengals, at least for the next 2-3 years, where we don't have to be able to come in on the show having a conversation about the Bengals addressing guard immediately, right? Let me explain this why. Well, Dalton Risner is a guy that sat out there on free agency for the last 2 years, right, guys? Mm-hmm. He's a guy that has been waiting for a team to take a chance on him, right? And what's been the one biggest caveat? No team has been able to guarantee him dollars or even years beyond just 1 year. Yeah. Now, obviously, last year he signed back late with the Vikings because he had a back injury, right? Mm-hmm. The Denver Broncos thing was absolutely weird. I asked my good friend Benjamin Albright why did that? Why he wasn't there? Because there was rumors out there that the guy didn't love football, but everything that I knew, everybody that I talked to said the guy loved football. He wanted to play. We just have no ideas. People say he was a bad teammate, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, the reason why I think he's a good fit is because here it is. Dalton Risner lands with the Cincinnati Bengals. He has a chance to spark his career. He has a chance to have a resurgence this year. And Cincinnati be the one place that, guess what? We'll say, hey, you know what? We love the play that we got out of you. How does $6 million for 2 years sound? Yeah. It's not about money. It's about the love of the game. It's about a team wanting to take a chance on you. At some point, obviously, you want to get paid for your work. But at the end of the day, if a team is willing to take a chance on you and then you reward that with good play and then they say, you know what, let's sign you to a long-term deal, I can see Dalton Risner being here for the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. I can see him being with the Bengals for the next 2 years. And this would also give the Bengals a little bit of a breather to see what good guard play could look like, especially for a guy like Joe Burrow, and then go from there. What type of tandem will Dalton Risner and Dylan Fairchild make together? I think a pretty damn good one. But to me, I think the money makes a lot of sense, right? And I think the need makes a lot of sense. Yep. There's not a lot of good starting guards that you could probably get for a multi-year deal if they play well this year that are probably going to fit within the Bengals price range. The days of Dalton Risner cashing in on, and correct me if I'm wrong, Logan, Daniel, the days of Dalton Risner cashing in on a huge payday are probably over. Yeah. That's probably not going to happen.
No.
But right around that benchmark, which the Bengals are willing to play, that $6 to $7 million, even $8 million, for a 2 year deal range, that Bengals will pay that all day.
Yeah.
It could be a match made in heaven for good guard play. Yeah. And, I think that's why I could visually see this as one that makes sense long-term. And if you're the Bengals, or if you're a Bengals fan, you're happy.
Yeah. I think for me, and Bill Sparks pointed out in the comment, love Bill and everything he does here for us at T-Rison, some great scouting, some great, literally everything football related. But what a lot of people don't really realize, I think, I don't, it's just the schemes matter so much. And I know that it's a little more obvious with receivers. It's a little more obvious with running backs. It's a little more obvious with quarterbacks even. But the line scheme is still just as important as every other scheme. And I know maybe it's just because it's a harder concept to grasp. Offensive line play is the most fun thing in the world. I'll tell you what, but like that, the scheme and how you fit on a line and with what they want to do and what a team's tendencies are matters so much. If you take the best run blocking guard in the league and put them on the Cincinnati Bengals, they're probably not as good of a football player, than they are on the Philadelphia Eagles. Like that is a true statement. And that is a true, if you're going to put receivers on, teams that don't run a lot of, empty or anything like that, they're going to put people in the slot, whatever they do. Like the scheme matters all around the football field. And even maybe more importantly on the offensive line. And we've talked about it a couple of times now, the way he fits in Cincinnati with their scheme, what he does well, what we're going to expect from a guard. It's like, it might be the most perfect guard period, out there. Like there's so many good things that back up his excellent pass blocking year after year after year after year after year. And maybe that's why he didn't get so much hype in Denver, because they were a very old school style of team, play actions and and downhill stuff. Like he clearly wasn't the great fit there, and he's starting to kind of get his footing and see this is the kind of player he is. And now he's found himself on a team where everything aligns perfectly for him. And it's a little annoying that it took this long to get there, but at the end of the day, it is a perfect fit, all things considered, and I hope he's here for a couple of years.
Perfect fit. And I think right now you have got to be ecstatic that he is on the team, because this is, when doing a deep dive onto this team, the Bengals threw the ball at the highest rate in the NFL last year, right? They threw the ball 64% of the time, which means you run it 36. That is an insane difference. And whether that's Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, that's what they do. And it's been repeatedly said from the players themselves, right? That Amaris Mims, Orlando Brown, my man, on you. That's how we play football. And that's a lot of times this Bengals offensive line. And to get the best guy available right now at one-on-one pass protection, he's the best at it in free agency, and you got him on your team. And the last part of this conversation is looking at, should the Bengals have done this earlier? 1,000%. And the part for me, I'm not really even going to entertain is, hey, like one of the comments, if Volson doesn't get hurt, if Patrick doesn't get hurt, does this happen? I don't know. And respectfully, at this point, I don't care. Yeah. And that's where I'm at with this season, because it's the same thing with the Mike Gesicki. Hey, should they have done the Noah Fant thing a year before? Yes. Should they have, same thing with Gesicki, should they have played him in his role earlier in the season? Yes. They didn't. We were discussing this. Malik, you were on the train every single week beforehand. You got until up week 6, week 7, where it was like, holy shit, we should probably start throwing it to Gesicki. We should probably start getting him in the slot. The Bengals seem very slow to do things, but at this point, this move alone, I'm going to isolate it. I don't care how it happened. He's on this team, and you don't make this move also if you don't believe that Lucas Patrick is not your starter for the rest of the season. Dalton Risner is going to be the starting right guard at some point this season, and you are going to be very happy that he's your starting right guard.
Yeah, I think that's something else that I don't want to say. I think we all understand that Lucas Patrick probably shouldn't be the starter, but now the Lucas Patrick signing becomes very normal again. It's like, okay, now good. We signed a proper backer that can come in and fill us in a pinch. Like we're not asking a career backup, a career fringe starter to be an every game starter. Now the Lucas Patrick signing becomes a normal quality-ish signing, because you're not asking a guy to do more than what he's proven he is. And that's a great feeling about it. And I'm sure it sucks for Lucas Patrick. I'm sure he's not thrilled, but he's in a role now that is his role. And just that alone also makes the team better. Just another quality depth option.
One last thing real quick on the Rivers versus Risner. I think for me, I see a guy in Rivers who has played 37 career college games. And I see a guy in Risner who's played 85 professional games. And that's just, it's pretty clear what I want to protect Joe Burrow, at least for this season.
And I think that you're in a point where, other fan bases might say, why did the Bengals make the most out of this signing? Well, when you've had as bad as guard play as the Bengals have had during the Joe Burrow era, this is when you celebrate things. So, which brings us to the next conversation. Have the Bengals going all in, guys? I think in the most Bengal-esque way, they've gone all in. Right? Like, in what world do they add Noah Fant? Right?
That's very weird signing at that point, too.
A Noah Fant, a former first-round tight end who has proven himself in the National Football League. And in what world do they add him? And what
Yeah.
world do they sign? Usually the Mike Gesicki extension doesn't happen, and the Noah Fant signing happens, to coincide, and then that makes sense, right? Usually that's what happens. And I remember we were doing our free agency profiles. Those were two signings that we had talked about, right? And it's like, I'm looking at it and I say, the Bengals did the Bengals in the most un-Bengal-like way, or the most Bengal way, I would say, have gone in this season, right? They have moved off of their beliefs by catering to T. Higgins, making sure they brought him back, throwing the bag at Jamar Chase, which was always going to be the case.
Catering BJ Hill, which was interesting, right? They have spent.
Yeah. They have spent. And the last thing I want people to say is, Malik, you're on the Bengals payroll. If you've ever watched State of the Jungle or any piece of my content, I have held their feet to the fire. I'm one of the people that have gone out there and I said, hey, you know what? Make sure you go out there, you sign Risner. Even when people were saying, no, he sucks, Lucas Patrick is better than him. Go out there and you bring back a guy like T. Higgins, right? Where you go out there and you bring in a Noah Fant, if possible. They did those moves. These are what winning franchises do, right? Now, some of it was some injuries took place, right? Which opened up the gate for these moves to be made. Yeah. Guys like Eric All are not playing football this season. So you bring in a Noah Fant, in the year 2025, this season is probably better than Eric All.
Yep.
Now, Eric All is better, probably blocker than him, but you're bringing Noah Fant in to do it all. That's what you're bringing Noah Fant in to do. And now you bring in Mike Gesicki to be that number 3 receiver. Now it creates a lot of stress on defenses to prepare for the Cincinnati Bengals team. A lot of the moves that the Bengals have made, I walk away and I feel like, wow, they got better They got better. They actually went out and they did what winning franchises do to put a competitive roster in front of their franchise quarterback. I want to sit up here and I want to say, hey, you know what? They did not do everything in their power. And there's some things that I can nitpick and get to, guys, and say they could have done, right? There are still some questions at the safety spot. There's still some questions at the safety spot. 100% there are. There are still some questions there. There are still some question marks there. But you let the Bengals tell you they haven't shown everything. Everything was so vanilla going in, right? That's why the Bengals have not looked great necessarily on defense, because they didn't want to show anything going into preseason. So if they're going by that mantra, we don't know what this team is going to look like week 1.
No,
we haven't seen Dax Hill out there. We haven't seen Cam Taylor-Britt out there. We haven't seen DJ Turner. We have not seen this defense functioning at its full capacity yet to tell you one thing or the other. One thing I can tell you is this team's a whole lot better with Trey Hendrickson rushing the passer, with Shamar Stewart and the rest of these guys. A couple things that I've realized, though. I don't know if people disagree or agree. I think Shamar Stewart should be running with the ones. Mm-hmm. I think Shamar Stewart should be playing alongside Trey Hendrickson week 1. I think if you want to get the most out of this team, listen, I'm all for still getting Miles Murphy in there.
Yeah.
Getting Joseph Ossai in there.
Yep.
But I think you want to bring a real threat to teams from a pass rush standpoint. I think the way you do it is you put Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson out there.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I want to know how the pass rush unit is going to look, right? I want to know how the linebackers are going to fully come together, right? Oren Burks, if I saw that correctly, was running with the ones, right?
Yeah, that was with Knight was a little banged up. Maybe that's an excuse or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they said.
All things that should happen. He should be brought along. He was brought in to play right away, but if he's not ready, that's a move that's got to make. So there are some question marks, but it's question marks that we won't have answers to until week 1 is over with. But boys, what do you guys think? Thoughts?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked. I think there's so much to be excited about, and I think the first thing, I'll get to the negative part in a second, but I've got something to say, but there ain't a better offense in the NFL.
Nope, like, not close.
we can talk about, sure, there's fun teams like the Ravens with Lamar and Derrick Henry, but there ain't a team that's got Joe Burrow healthy. That's got Jamar Chase. It's got T. Higgins. You got Gesicki and a backup Noah Fant. You got Chase Brown. This team is going to be high flying. And once again, this is a luxury. Fans, you guys should be stoked because you don't take this for granted. You don't know how long a window lasts. And there is very few teams that have the continuity on coaching staff, a healthy quarterback. this is an exciting time because regardless, there's major concerns about the defense, and I have concerns. But my philosophy, and I think the philosophy that I had last year is, hey, if this offense with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is in the playoffs, they are going to make noise. And that's what I'm excited about, because the biggest question mark of the interior offensive line, I think they've done the best right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't much more that I can say that they can do right now. We're going to have talks in the offseason, but right now, this offense is ready to lock and load. And that is the one thing I am stoked for. And I would not be shocked if we're seeing record numbers. We'll talk about the Bengals bets next week, but Joe Burrow passing yards through the roof. Chase Brown all-purpose yards through the roof. Like, this offense is going to put up points. And goddamn, there is not a defense, I think, that is not going to be scared about this offense. And I am absolutely stoked on the offense side of the ball.
Yeah, I think continuing on the offense, man, like Daniel hit it. It's just fun, man. Like scoring points is so much fun.
So good.
Like I know there's a lot of ways you can win a football game. Like obviously there's a ton. Defense matters. Defense wins championships still at the end of the day. But there's no more fun way of watching a football game than watching your offense just go out there and somebody not be able to do anything to stop you. Like it's one of the coolest, feelings ever. And it is. So this Bengals team is going to be a ton of fun. But, kind of looking at the defensive side, and really kind of talked about it with Shamar Stewart starting with Trey potentially and doing some of these things, what they lack in defensive line, like productivity, they do have a lot more options this year, which is a very fun thing. Having Stewart and Hendrickson on the field makes a ton of sense with how disruptive they can be. But in the inverse of that, also putting Myles Murphy and Joseph Asai on the field makes some sense because they can play the early downs. They can do the dirty work. They can still have some success and all around. In the corners, the secondary is going to be the issue. I don't want to say the issue, the biggest question mark. We kind of know what the defensive line is to a degree. We know there's some upside there. We know they've got some depth to work. We know Trey is Trey, but the secondary is the one part that really we've seen the good and we've seen the bad. What are we getting this year? And that's kind of the real question marks for me. And it comes back to the safety room too. I know, and I've been kind of thinking about it like, a lot of people clamoring for Justin Simmons and I totally understand that. And I totally wouldn't mind it either. But in college at Notre Dame, again, I know we're not an independent college anymore. Like he's coaching in the NFL. He ran a ton of one high, a ton of single high safety at Notre Dame. You don't need that many safeties on the field if you're going to continue to run single high the whole time. And obviously, that brings more people in the box. They can bring Jordan Battle in the box. It brings a guy like PJ Jules in the box where they can thrive. So it's like, it's going to depend on how Al is really going to deploy these safeties and get creative. That's another thing he's done really well. So it's like, as much as I do think adding a safety makes total sense in the world, I can see the world where Al Golden's like, I trust how I'm going to use my safeties regardless. I don't ask them to do too much. Like I don't need an abundance of them, where he'd rather have an abundance of linebackers, corners, whatever. Like I see where his defense aligns to the fact that he's comfortable being thin in the safety room versus not being comfortable anywhere else.
For sure. And the one, like I said, when we look at this defense, my concern and my biggest fear when we look at, if we were to look back on this specific team, I think their one potential downfall, or the thing that's going to turn them up, is the drafting and developing, because the key to this defense, and quite frankly, I think the key to this team, the only real part, is you have guys in the past, call it 3 years, 6 guys that you drafted within the first 3 rounds: Myles Murphy, Chris Jenkins, Demetrius Knight, DJ Turner, Cam Taylor-Britt, and Dax Hill. All 6 of those guys are going to play massive roles for this team. And I think if your defense fails, I think it is because of that. That is the biggest thing, and that is my biggest question mark. And that's what I think makes the great teams great. You look at the Chiefs, you look at the Eagles, they draft and they develop. And those guys, they have the ability to turn this defense around if they show up this year.
You got to get the most out of this young crop. Like there's no debate about that. You have to. That you brought Al Golden in because you said Luke couldn't develop. So now you're bringing Al Golden in, who came from the college ranks, and you're hoping that he can develop. Guys, the one thing I will say, I would have really, really loved to have seen Xavier Watts in a Bengals uniform. I think that's going to be the one for me where it's like, because I think that the press for linebacker we pushed a little bit too early on it because I feel like if Barrett Carter was always going to be an option, that's a guy you brought in. At that point, you had already signed Oren Burks, right? A guy that came in with experience. He's a young dude as well, and you view Barrett Carter the way you view him. No more, I think Barrett Carter's going to be a phenomenal player. I just feel like Xavier Watts could have been a guy that helped complete this defense, and it was one of those things where it's like, I think we forget Geno Smith is in a prove-it year. He's on a 1-year deal. This is 1 year left in his contract. We don't know what the future holds there. Water under the bridge, won't harp on it too much, but I think all things being considered here is I think that you're really hoping that Al Golden is able to develop these guys and get the most out of them defensively because they have drafted the talent, right? They have drafted the players. Can he make use of Myles Murphy? I'm excited to see on a little bit of a lighter note. I'm really, really excited to see Chris Jenkins this year.
Getting a lot of praise recently.
I've raved about him last year. I thought he had some very good games against the Cleveland game, against the Raiders game. I thought he showed a lot of promise. Could Al Golden unlock that? Is Al going to be able to unlock that? And if he's able to unlock that, wow, this Bengals defense could look a lot different.
Yeah.
Which also, to me, it just makes me wonder what happens with a guy like BJ Hill. If those guys are showing up the way that you expect them to show up, what does that look like? Right? Like, can Joseph Osai stack onto the strong ending he had to last year? Like, these are I'm going to be looking at guys on the defensive line, but also that safety position, that safety room. You're hoping communication is going to be at an all-time high, man, and that we're not going to be blowing coverages out there. That's what you're expecting to see from an Al Golden's defense. And apparently they're saying, we ain't seen nothing yet. You don't know what's to come. Well, I don't know what's to come. I know what people have been saying. And I know when I've talked to some of the guys, as they said, hey, this defense is going to be on fire. This defense has been competitive. It seems like it's been a competitive camp. Can DJ Turner find his confidence? Can guys like Cam Taylor-Britt, right? Can those guys be everything and more that the Bengals had hoped for? This is what we're hoping to see. This is what we're hoping to see this year from the Cincinnati Bengals team, guys. I mean, but I'd be lying that we do have question marks. We do have question marks at linebacker spot. Can Logan Wilson return to form? Has he truly lost a step? Right. And if he's lost a step, what happens then? Yeah. What do you do? Because listen, you got to be able to make decisions quickly and early, man. Quickly and early when it comes to the season. It's a long ass season, right? You got to be trying to get the most out of it. Is Barrett Carter going to be able to find snaps on the football field year one? I don't know. But you better put your best guys out there.
Yeah.
You better put your best guys out there. I'm excited to see what happens. What else, guys? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you made a great point. Obviously, don't want to think too much about the past, but if I was the GM, I agree. I look at this team and I just look at how it is now. Am I more confident in Shaka Hayward as the backup linebacker or a PJ Jules getting real snaps right now? Yeah. Like I said, I agree with you. I think Demetrius Knight, hopefully he is a good player, but the depth, I think, in the need for the position, I would agree. I think the safety position was probably something where, like, you look at Demetrius Knight in round 2 or Barrett Carter in round 4. I think you could live with Barrett Carter taking those snaps. So that's something in hindsight. Besides that, man, I mean, I'm going to harp on it again. I agree with you. I think Chris Jenkins is a massive X factor. It can't be understated enough. You guys both watch football. The interior defensive line has the ability to destroy an NFL offense. We saw it in the Super Bowl. Yep. We've seen it so many times. I'm begging for the Bengals at some point. That's going to make my life
they
super
tried.
happy.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
They tried, right? Yeah. And there's a world in which you can get a shit ton out of Shamar Stewart, even rushing him from the inside.
Yeah.
There is a world where you can get, I mean, that's why he was drafted, right? Walter Nolan was a guy they loved, right?
Yep.
But then you look at it and you say, hey, you know what? Shamar Stewart's right there on the edge. He can also move inside on pass rush downs. He put Joseph Osai out there on the edge as well. And hell, you can run the NASCAR package. You can even have Myles Murphy on the inside. But there's so much creative stuff that you can do in what you're hoping to do. But if Chris Jenkins can be the guy that he flashed and showed at Michigan, that he flashed and showed in his rookie season with the Bengals, I think that this Bengals team can take the next step. I think that this team is primed to shock a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they need to be a top 10 defense.
No.
Right? I think if they could be an opportunistic defense, right? A situationally sound defense, right? When we look at that Super Bowl defense the Bengals had, the Super Run defense that they had, they didn't have elite. It wasn't an elite defense, but they made critical stops when they needed to, right? Yeah. You had a nice tandem at the, from from at the defensive tackle spot, in the interior spot, right? You had guys like Larry Ogunjobi and BJ Hill, and those guys able to rush. Mike Daniels when he was there as well. Now you got TJ Slayton. And that's a guy I feel like that's flying under the radar right now. They have committed to, hey, you know what? We want to stop the run. I'm just excited to see how and correct me if I'm wrong, Lord, I'm just excited to see how they're going to use everybody.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to use a TJ Slayton?
Yep.
How are you going to use a Chris Jenkins? How are you going to use a BJ Hill?
Yep.
Like, is there enough mouths to feed on this defense? Is there going to be enough snaps to go around? Because you need to have TJ Slayton out there on the obvious rundowns, right? Yeah. That's a guy that I'm guessing he's going to be the starting nose tackle for the Bengals,
absolutely.
Right alongside who? Chris Jenkins, BJ Hill? I don't know. This is the kind of stuff that I'm excited to see. I feel like it's going to be tough to make everybody happy, but it's going to be exciting to see. I think that one thing you'll have fresh legs on the defensive line,
which is so important, man. It's a long year. Like having that, like if your defense is, top half of the league for the first half of the year, and then it continues to get worse, that don't do you any good. But I think this Bengals defense, while it may not, have the peaks, but I think it can maintain a steady production all year long with the creativity, with the versatility. And again, I know we're not trying to pinpoint and talk about every person, but I feel like we've talked about him a little bit, but I'm really excited to see Dax Hill finally too, man. Like, I love him in the slot. I think that's where he's made to play. I think we got a creative DC to use him in that way. Again, like the nickel position, that slot position is becoming such an important position in football, and the importance of having a good one is growing year in and year out, with the ability to play the run, with the ability to cover these tight ends, with the ability to cover these slots, and having a good one and having the potential of Dax Hill in there makes me excited. But like Malik said, man, who knows how everybody's even going to be used. So, how we look in Cleveland, how everybody's deployed is going to be fascinating to find out.
Yeah. And the last thing, Malik, I think you brought up a great point too. This defense, for as much, and I love me a good pass rush, the biggest thing this defense can do is stop the run. And I think that they're built to have that high end potential. And I think that is where, if I'm looking at how this Bengals defense can help the offense, I'm confident they can be opportunistic, right? I'm confident there's going to be times where Cam Taylor-Britt can make a big play. I think that this defense has that potential. The biggest problem is going to be, hey, if you can stop the run, if Slayton, Chris Jenkins, if you can force defenses into or offenses into a tough situation, I think this team has a ton of potential.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm excited. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, listen, the fun part of the show, I want to get to answering your questions. If you guys could do us a huge favor, we got over close to 800 people watching us on Twitter right now. We've got 260, about 270 people watching us on YouTube right now. We greatly appreciate y'all for tuning in. We're gearing up for the season, man. If you guys give this video a like and subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Let's get to answering some questions before we head out of here, Dana. So let's get to the fun part.
Of course. Once again, drop your questions down below. We had Chad Walter. He said, thoughts on Mike Hilton. Do you guys think that he could come back as a DB coach? But we also had some other people said bring him back onto the team. Thoughts on?
I think Mike Hilton will soon have a home in Indianapolis, Indiana, and that's probably where he'll retire.
Yeah. He's got a workout, I believe.
Yeah, but they intend to sign him.
He'll be a Colt in a week.
It's funny how Lou's kind of his defense is kind of like bringing in a lot of guys that.
Yeah, did you see who their starting linebacker is?
Joe Bacci.
Joe Bacci, baby.
Joe Bacci. He finally got his starting corner. Finally got his starting corner.
Yeah,
who was the
David
guy?
Howard.
Oh my God! So I got a funny story to tell you. I don't know if I should tell this story, but so Lou was trying to sign what's his name last year? Xavier Howard last year. And then remember who got hurt on the defensive line? Was it BJ Hill? Somebody got hurt on the defensive line last year, defensive tackle position.
Well, obviously
Chris Jenkins broke his thumb early.
Yeah, remember Chris Jenkins had the injury?
Yeah.
Well, they they brought in Lawrence. Remember they signed Lawrence Guy?
Oh Lord, he played snaps.
They said the coaching staff walked in. The coaching staff walked in, and Lawrence Guy was there in the meeting, and they're like, "What the hell just happened?" It was like Duke and his staff were just like, "Yeah, well, Lawrence Guy is a part of the team now. We're gonna bring in." They said they called a couple of their people around the league and was like, "Has this guy even played? When's When's the last time you saw a Lawrence Guy snap? So as long as we don't have any of that this year, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
I think we'll be okay. But I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
What a guy.
We had a question about Troy Walters. I mean, people are just saying wide receiver but what's your guys' thoughts on how the job Troy Walters has done as wide receivers coach?
I think he's done fantastic. I think he's the next offensive coordinator in waiting if Dan Pitcher gets a head coaching opportunity. But I really do believe that Troy Walters is a guy that he's done an immaculate job. I'm surprised he's still here. Let me just put it this way. I'm surprised he's still here, and I'm surprised what's my man's name is still here from the Bengals front office.
The
Troy Brown,
Trey Brown. I'm surprised both of those guys are still here, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
But I think that Troy Walters is a guy that's next up. I think that Dan Pitcher was obviously next in line to be offensive coordinator because he's been here since the Marvin Lewis era. So and he's really worked his way up through the ranks here, and I think that he's going to find himself as a head coach pretty soon here.
Yeah. Question from Jacqueline Hyde said, what's the biggest questions on this Bengals team now? Is it defensive backs? Where do you guys think the question marks lie with the Bengals?
I mean, it's got to be just the back end of the defense in general. But we've talked about that a lot, and I don't think it's an issue. It's something I'm not worried about at all. But I am interested to see how things would play out if Chase Brown missed a week or two. Like I like P. Ryan, he's fine. Like I like Taj Brooks in general. Like, but still, that's just a weird duo to have if somebody were to go. And I'm not saying we need to go get a backup running back or any of those things, but it's just like out of all the depth on the team, if Chase Brown were to miss some time, it's a weird tandem. Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily a bad one. I don't think there's any major problem with it, but it's just two kind of, it'd be a strange situation. And hopefully we don't have to experience it. But again, PRN is what he is. I like the upside and potential of Brooks, but again, he's a 6th-round rookie at the same time. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I'm not worried about the room. I don't want them to add anybody necessarily. But again, it's just running backs get hurt all the time.
No, for sure. And I mean, we could keep on that because we had a couple questions of how big is Brooks's role going to be, as well as how long until Brooks is running back 2. I agree with you. I think that Samaje Perine was brought in here for a reason, to be the veteran backup. And I think in case of a Chase Brown injury, I think Perine sees the bulk of it and maybe Brooks works his way in. But respectfully, the running back role with the Cincinnati Bengals is probably one of the easiest, I would say, in terms of opportunity, because you are going to get checkdowns. You are going to have light boxes. And that is something respectful. I think if Perine were to slide in as the starting running back, I think we see him have 80 rushing yards, 5 receptions, and 40 receiving yards every single game because of this offense. So Brooks, I think it would take a little bit, but it would definitely, no doubt, it would take a Chase Brown injury for him to overtake Samaje Perine as the backup running back because of just the pure veteran presence.
Yeah, I think Perine's role is going to be his role regardless of who's healthy and who's not. Like if Brown were to go down, I'd expect Brooks to handle more of the carries than Perine would. But the snaps in general, always like Perine's going to have his role regardless of who's healthy and who's not, I think.
For sure. We had a question about Dax Hill. I believe it was from Akil the Great. He said, how do we feel about Dax Hill to slot cornerback? Feels like he's finally in his natural position.
Yeah, we just kind of touched on a little bit. I love it. I think the nickel position is one of the more undervalued and underappreciated positions in the league. And, I love the idea of Dax playing there. I think that's always kind of been his home and where he should. And I think there's a good chance he thrives there. And, he's just got all the makings of a really good slot corner, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out.
Oh, for sure. And I think that Dax Hill, I think he's the best cornerback the Bengals have. Yeah. I mean, first off, pure talent-wise, and we didn't get to see him a whole lot in preseason, but we saw a couple snaps. He looked good. Obviously, it was one of the crossing routes he kept with the wide receiver. I think we'll be surprised with how well he does. And it's also going to be a change of pace because last year, not to bag on Mike Hill as a full-on cornerback, but Mike Hill as a man-to-man corner got burnt time and time again, just due to athletic limitations, just due to him not being this elite athlete. And Dax Hill is an elite athlete. And I think you are going to be thankful because there's multiple times, whether it was CD Lamb in the slot or, these other wide receivers where it's like, holy crap, Mike Hill on CD Lamb, what the hell is going on here? I think you are in a much better position when it comes to the slot. slot cornerback.
Somebody said the respect.
I
please.
know. I need to stop that. I need to stop that.
Respect. We've been hearing that a lot lately.
It's
I
better
need
than
to stop.
so it's fine.
You said what?
It's better than when people say all the time.
Yeah.
So
Respectfully.
Respectfully, I got to stop that right
respectfully is
now.
better than
Oh my God.
So we had a couple other questions. Some people were saying, what's your guys' predictions for the season? Obviously, we don't have to give record predictions, but how confident are you week 1 and early on in the season versus where you guys were prior seasons?
I mean, I feel good. I always feel good though. That's the thing. Like this team always has the stars. It's always got the talent and needs. It's just for whatever reason we haven't been able to overcome the beginning of the year.
This is different though,
woes.
Lo. This is different, bro.
It
This
is.
feels different.
I hope so.
It feels like this is their way of going all in. Like they're putting their chips all on the table. They're telling Zach that, hey, we need to see results this year. And oh man, I could talk about this all day, man. I even think that I think Zach Taylor needs to win this year.
Absolutely.
Like simple as that. I think he needs to win this year. I think that I think this team realizes that they are in the prime of Joe Burrow's career. And they need to do everything in their power to put out a winning football team.
Yep.
They don't make moves like the ones they've made. Like they don't bring in a Noah Fant. They don't bring in a Dalton Risner this late. And they usually stick to what they've done. They're operating like an actual functioning franchise. They're making moves past April, past the draft. They're making moves late, right up until a week before the season.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even shock me that if they noticed that things were kind of moving haywire, if they made a move in season that would help them put together a winning football team. And this is things that we've been asking for. It's the little things of, hey, operating like a franchise that wants to win, that understands the need to win and understands what it's going to take to put together a championship level team. And these are the kind of moves, scouring the waiver wire, understanding, okay, what it's going to take to get over that hump, to make sure that, hey, we're not starting slow, to make sure that, hey, the glaring issues on this team are not glaring issues. Hell, if he was healthy, it wouldn't shock me if Asante Samuel was even had brought in at some point. He's dealing with a neck injury.
Nice.
The guy's not going to be able to play. I think he's getting like a fusion. He's getting scan next in October or something like that. So there's a lot that goes into it. But to me, what I see right now from the football team, and guys, I'm not being a kiss ass to this organization. Y'all know me. I'm bringing a New York style of media to Cincinnati. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed, and I don't get impressed. It's very difficult to make me excited about anything, to make me even feel like you're trying to win. But these are moves that signify a team that's trying to win. And maybe it's the pressure Joe Burrow's put on this team, but it's clear caving on the Trey Hendrickson thing, saying, hey, you know what? We're going to give you a raise. We're going to do all these things because we believe that everything that we're putting all our eggs in this basket. We're putting all the chips on the table. We're going to try to put together the best possible team that we can in the most Bengal-esque way. That is what I see right now. And for that, I got to give a hats off. This is what championship level football teams do. Now, obviously, you still have a ways to go, right? But maybe a Dalton Risner signing is the start of the Bengals understanding that the guard position actually matters. Maybe this is them saying, hey, you know what? We need to actually go out there and get good guard play in the future when Dalton Risner retires or, and there is no more Dalton Risner. Maybe we need to go out there and start appreciating that position a little bit more. Maybe Trey Hendrickson blows them away and he says, you know what? We need to do away with the whole, if you're 30 years old, we won't pay you. We did it with BJ Hill. BJ Hill is not even half the player Trey Hendrickson is. I walk away from this feeling that they're open to change, even if it's at their pace. That's my thoughts.
Bro, there ain't many teams that are as ready for the season
On
as
paper.
this team.
Say on paper.
On paper, but on paper. But there is so many question marks around these other teams. I mean, you could look at the 49ers. They've got question marks about the roster. The Lions, you lost both of your defense coordinators. There's legit only 4 teams that I think are on paper that are ready, that I can say those teams have the full package, and that's the Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles, and Bills. Besides the Bengals are up there. And when you look at what Vegas is saying, when you look at what other people are saying, of course, people believe in this Bengals offense, but it is rare that you have a team that we can look at right now and say, I can see this team making serious noise, not just reaching the conference championship. Like a lot of teams like the Texans are probably saying, man, I think we can get to the championship. I think we can get there. But do they have the team to beat the Chiefs? Do they have the team to beat the Bills? The same thing in the NFC, the Packers. Sure, they're a high-flying team, but they ain't got what the Bengals got. And the Bengals are, you're right, it does feel different. And I am stoked for the season, and I think that there is still a lot of question marks on this defense, but Bengals fans have got to be excited, and they got to be happy about this team.
So somebody asked a question. They said, is there anybody out there that you think the Bengals can still add to this team that would help? If I'm really looking at this free agency list right now, guys, there isn't a lot of people on here that I think would make a lot of sense. But if I'm going to look, it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball, obviously, right? Because I think that we've given the offense everything, and I mean everything they need.
Yeah.
I know it's a freaky name out there. I know it's a weird name out there. And it's not realistic for a lot of reasons. Maybe it is realistic, but to me, it's not right now. But you get a guy like Christian Wilkins, obviously, with his foot injury. You don't know what that looks like.
About that.
Him still being available is interesting to me. I'm curious, Marcus Williams, the former Ravens safety. I know everybody's like, oh, here we go again. We brought in Geno's. Maybe, right? Though again, guys, I'm just really spitballing here at some names that are still available. I'm not really interested in Stephon Gilmore. He's like almost 40. I feel like the best football is probably past him. I don't know. I still, a name that still interests me is a little bit. I don't know what his health is right now, but Jedrick Wills.
Yeah,
that's still a backup tackle guy that I'm interested in per se. I would be interested in Asante Sam if it wasn't for the neck injury right now. I think that he's got to figure that out. But if I'm looking at, there's still some guys on here, some names. I feel like you're overloaded on at the interior of the defensive tackle. So I feel like any additional ads is going to have to come from the secondary.
Yeah.
Right. You could say Justin Simmons, but who's his agent? Dave Mogetta.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have history there. Does that make sense? I have no idea. But those are some names that I can definitely point to. You could say Jordan Whitehead.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just some names.
It's not nothing I envision the Bengals doing either, but Kyle Duggar is a guy I've just been a fan of. I don't think they're going to go make a trade. I don't think they're going to take on that salary or anything. But there's just, these people, I know we just signed Dalton Risner, and we're excited about that. But like a lot of these other people are still free agents for a reason too. And the fit isn't as perfectly as obvious as Risner's was, which is why we're so excited about it. Like the safety room, like I talked about earlier, could Justin Simmons make some sense? But then again, it's like, is he going to start? That's what he would be wanting. And are you going to hand him a starting spot over Battle or Stone right now? Like that doesn't make the most sense in the world for them to do that. So then it's like, he shouldn't sign to be a backup anywhere. So it's like, you're not going to get a starting quality player at this point. The Christian Wilkins thing is pretty fun. Especially when we talk about with Cross and Gregory on this team right now. Like, again, who knows what his health looks like? Who knows when he'd be ready to play and everything. But that's the one. I don't want to even say realistic. That's just the one like real fun possibility of people out there that I think if they were to come here would make a pretty large difference.
For sure. And I think, like I said, I agree with the safety position. I actually didn't realize that Marcus Williams was still out here. So him, Justin Simmons, and those are guys I'd be curious to see who else takes a shot, because if they're still available midseason, knock on wood, but you have an injury, I think those guys are going to be more than willing to take a starting spot.
They'd take it now. The team was interested in them, right?
Yeah,
if
they had a starting spot.
I think that in order to bring in like a starter like Justin Simmons, the Geno Stone injury would have to be horrific.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's at that level.
No.
I think he's expected. I haven't heard anything about him potentially missing week 1. Yeah. But you're hopeful that these guys can give you good snaps, and you're hoping to get the most out of them. So continue, Dan. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. We just had a couple more questions. Michael Roth said, what do you guys think is the Bengals record through 4 weeks? I can pull up the schedule, but obviously you got the Browns, Jaguars.
Vikings.
Guys, every time we do this, it never goes the way we want it to.
It's not going to. But
I'll tell you this. The last time the Bengals but had played in their season, the Minnesota Vikings on their schedule early, they made a Super Bowl run.
We did.
Right?
Okay.
right? That means absolutely nothing. But if I was trying to pull one of those
everything.
NBA stats, LeBron James, you know how they say LeBron James is the first NBA player to score X amount of points at 8:00 p.m. on their 23rd season in the NBA. Like that was one of those type of stats. Okay, nobody found that funny. Okay. It's all good. It's all good. I'm still here.
I was thinking.
Funny. Yeah, I was looking at this roster or this schedule. I think like I struggled to see how they lose the first two. If I had to guess, I think 3-1. I think there's a chance, obviously, you go 4-0, but I do think that one of those Vikings or Broncos games both are away. I think that they could end up dropping one of those. But just as I'm looking at this, the Browns and Jaguars, they're fun games. I just don't see them losing, man. I don't. The Jaguars are early. They're fun. You got Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr., two guys I think are going to ball out. But I think 3-1 is realistic.
Somebody said this might be unrealistic, optimistic, but the Bengals will go 6-0 through their first 4 games.
There you go.
There's something that, I think the Bengals are going to get a very good vibe of their season early on. And it's really because, like we just said, we play the Browns, we play Jacksonville, we play Minnesota, and we play Denver. You're going to face 4 very good defensive lines right out the gate, and that's the only thing stopping their offense is how is the offensive line going to play? You're facing multiple game records on every team week in and week out, several strong defensive units for the first 4 weeks of the season. Your offense needs to come ready to roll as we all expect them to do. But again, they're going to get tested. That offensive line is going to get tested early and often this year, and it's going to set the tone for the year wholeheartedly. I think week 1, I know it's a 4-week question here, but man, if we look any sort of slow week 1 against that Cleveland Browns team, I probably will be more concerned than I should. But
I would say that Minnesota Vikings game was going to be tough, but they are dealing with their fair share of injuries. I think they lose Christian Darrisaw for the season.
I'm not sure. I know that
I think so.
He's out for the year. I'm pretty
they
sure
got some weird things going on.
He's out for a long period.
And JJ McCarthy's he's a question mark.
Yeah.
Really?
Or just like
we don't know. Yeah, they obviously have had
game.
Injuries at the wide receiver position. Is Jordan Addison missing
He's
time?
suspended for 3 games.
So he's going to miss this game.
We'll get Adam Thielen.
They got Adam Thielen back in. Yeah. So I mean, I listen. I actually think JJ McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a very good team.
I think so too.
I just don't know if they'll be a very good team in week 2. Week 3. In week 3. I just don't know.
Looking at the schedule, I don't know what the consensus was. There's some tough games on you, and there's fun games. Like the Patriots in week 12. Like that is the Patriots are working their way up. Same thing with Chicago. You got a lot of teams that are right on the cusp. Green Bay. There's no like gimme game on here.
No, I mean it's the National Football League. No game is a gimme, right? I mean, you look at it, man. I say to myself, you got the Jaguar, you got the Browns, Jaguars, and we'll dive more into this next week, because I don't want to do this without Evan necessarily, but
Detroit at home.
Every game that I see so far, the first 6 weeks are winnable games.
Oh, for sure.
They're winnable games. And I think that they're games where you can make a statement. I think if you come out right away and you punch teams in the mouth, I think they can win the Jaguars game. I think they can win the Cleveland game. I just think that Cleveland has this. Remember the Undertaker growing up had the streak, right? Even though we know wrestling is fake. The Undertaker had this streak at WrestleMania where he never lost, and it was like this mystique. I think that there's this weird thing with Cleveland and the Bengals.
Yeah.
Where we make the game, we make the matchup bigger than what it really should be, respectfully. And obviously it's a rival, it's the Battle of Ohio, but on paper, the Bengals are the more talented team.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals are right now, this second. The Cleveland's dealing with a lot of turmoil. I can't imagine that locker room is completely gelled together with the quarterback battles and all the kind of stuff like that. But to me, I feel like the Bengals should be, if they're the team that they said that they're going to be, if they're talking about, hey, we're a championship level team this year, we're the Cincinnati Bengals, everybody's locked in, Cleveland should be no problem.
Yeah.
Do you remember that year where Joe Burrow's coming off the ACL injury and they absolutely were just running roughshod in the division?
Yeah.
Right? And they were just completely just dogging teams, if you will. That has to be the mentality. That has to be the mentality. You want to instill fear into opposing teams. There's no more, hey, T. Higgins contract. What's going to happen there? It's done. Jamar, it's done. Trey, it's done. You have everything set in stone. This Bengals football team is in a spot right now where there should be no other team to get in their way besides themselves.
Yep.
Right? When I view it, that's how I view this whole thing. I think that this Bengals team should be able to hit the ground running, Daniel. I believe that.
Oh, 1000%. And I'm not even so I'm excited to see this team.
Somebody just commented something. They said, Brian Flores is who I worry about for the Vikings. Shocked he didn't get head coach job. Gary Jellison, I agree with you 100%, brother. But I'm going to tell you something that we have not been able to say, at least since I've been living. The Bengals have the best quarterback in the National Football League. The Bengals have a deadly offense. So I think that when you had a Tom Brady, when you had a Peyton Manning, when you had quarterbacks of that essence, you look forward to those matchups to prove how good your team is.
Mhm.
I look forward to facing these elite defenses, these standout defenses to prove how good Joe Burrow actually is. So that might have been an issue with all due respect to the Red Rifle. That might have been an issue when Andy Dalton was our quarterback. I don't have the same thoughts when it comes to a Joe Burrow. I actually think he elevates his level of play when he faces some of the tougher defenses in the league.
Mm-hmm. So we got one last question from Michael Rolfe, or he said 2 questions. He asked about a giveaway that he wants to do. And then the second one is, who is the most likely team in the NFC to come out and be in the Super Bowl? So not a Bengals question, but who do you guys think NFC wise?
You said the unlikeliest
Is the most likely team to win the NFC?
I mean, the Eagles is the easiest to say that again, right? But I don't know if I see them do. I think it's so hard to repeat. Eagles could be in it again.
The NFC is kind of weird.
Man,
this
it's
year.
weird.
I
I
don't-
think the Commanders going to have a fall.
I don't like the Lions much.
No, not
this
with the
year.
coordinators. I don't.
I think that's going to be a big issue.
Mhm.
The Packers are just the Packers, I guess. Like, you never feel great about saying the Packers. The Cowboys are the Cowboys. You know, like, it's the 49ers are banged up. Like,
Yeah.
they're not the same. It's a very, I don't want to say weak NFC this year, but nothing overly exciting. Like, if I had to guess right now, I would say the Eagles. And like Malik said, that's very difficult, but I think they are pretty much far and away the best team in the NFC right now.
For sure. And I think 2 other sleeper teams, it's between the Rams or the 49ers. Obviously, Rams, they've got the Matthew Stafford question, but I think that they're loaded. And same thing with the Niners. I do think that the Niners, it's one or the other. I don't see a world where they're just a mid-level team. I think that they come out and either rebound in a big way. McCaffrey is healthy. You get Juwan Jennings back. You get Ricky Pearsall in there, George Kittle, and they go out and get 12-plus wins. Or the Rams go out and Stafford is healthy and they go out and get 12-plus wins. But besides that, like the Buccaneers, they've got injuries. Wirfs is injured. And then the Cowboys are a question mark. It's a very weird team. And if it's not the Eagles, I feel like it's going to be an obscure team like the Rams or something. But yeah, good. I guess we got one other question. People are talking about how the cornerbacks aren't the strong point for the Bengals. Are you concerned about Cam Taylor-Britt? Are you concerned about Dax Hill, or are you confident for them heading into the season?
I mean, I'm, a little bit of both. I think they all have the potential and athletic ability to thrive in the NFL. I'm interested to see how Al deploys everybody out there.
Yeah.
But we've seen them all be good, which gives me, maybe it's some false hope, but we've seen them all be good. Obviously, we've seen them all be bad, but playing corner is hard. And I'd like to think they find a middle ground this year with the new coordinator. I'm confident in them being good enough. Am I confident in them being super good? No, not really. But I think it's a good enough group to get the job done, and that's all the defense needs.
For sure. All right.
What?
Oh, you want to get to some more?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I didn't know.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So some other questions people are talking about. Just Shrek said if the Packers get Micah Parsons, it's them. What's your thoughts on the Cowboys?
I mean, he's not getting traded. He's not getting traded there. He's not getting traded to an NFC team. That's just not happening. That's not realistic. Just because Jerry is kind of dug in on that.
He's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
God.
I think the Niners. I think the Niners are a team people are sleeping on personally. I think the San Francisco 49ers always just find a way, and I think Kyle Shanahan is in a prove it year, man. I think he needs to break through this year. Or people are going to be calling for his job.
And their team, where you look at his tenure, like as much of crap like I could give them, they have not had back-to-back losing seasons. Like since I think his first season coaching there, like every year they are in, and they just dealt with a shit ton of injuries last year. So looking at them, I think that having consistency as well in the coaching staff is such an important thing in the NFL. And when you got guys Like, they brought back Saul as their defensive coordinator, and you have, Kyle Shanahan is still calling plays, and you still have the same front office. I think they're a very consistent team, I feel like, year over year.
Guys, listen to this. The Bengals put in a claim for Jordan Jefferson, and it didn't happen because the 49ers had priority on him, and the 49ers were able to scoop him up with the defensive tackle.
Interesting.
But it's like, damn, how many defensive tackles you gonna keep adding? This is them regretting probably the DJ Reader thing or not feeling like they feel they there's no way you feel confident in the defensive tackle room. You keep trying to add defensive tackles, right?
Is that the only claim they put in?
So far, Mike Garafolo just put that out. The Bengals put in a claim for defensive tackle Jordan Jefferson, but the 49ers had priority on former Jaguars linemen.
I mean, and they just must not feel good. I mean, that's the thing. But like, the question mark is, like, what more is he adding than Gregory or Howard Cross? But this is clear. Like, McKinley Jackson, they don't feel confident about him. They don't feel confident about BJ Hill's health problem. Like, and do I blame them? Probably not. Like, I think that this is a room where you need it to be fantastic. Yeah. And
I mean, like Malik said, we were playing Lawrence Guy last year. I think they're terrified of that happening again. And even if it's overkill, if you're going to overkill any position in the NFL, I'm glad you're doing it in the trenches.
Yeah.
Completely. Michael Roth said, who is the most likely to become a top 15 player at their position on defense, excluding Trey Hendrickson? I would probably...
You said top 15?
Like, in the NFL. Like,
on the Bengals?
No.
On the defense, outside of Trey. Like if there's anybody...
Shamar Stewart.
Yeah.
Shamar.
I think Shamar... If we're talking by the end of the season, I think Shamar is probably the one player. Because who else do you have like him?
Like Dax Hill.
Huh?
I was
Dax Hill.
I think Dax has a good potential to do that. I think he's, again, the nickel position is so important. And I know, like, there's good corners in the NFL, but to be that 15th ish players that all we're asking for here, I think it's very easy to become that very quickly in the National Football League. You have one good year and everybody's talking about you. That's just how the corner position is. It's very hard to sustain that year in and year out. And I think a full healthy year of Dax Hill playing where he should be playing is.
And he was good last year.
He was good on the outside too. We got
I liked him on that.
I do worry about coming off.
Is it confirmed that he's slot?
No, not necessarily, but he's expected to be. I mean, we don't know how Al's defense is going to look. That's the issue.
He's a slot, I think.
Yeah,
but
I think I feel like if they're not in a slot base, I feel like he would still be on the field over DJ Turner. I still feel like he would be.
I would put him there.
He's better.
He's a better quarterback than DJ Turner.
He's better. Like, I don't know. I think that so Natty Ron, he said we are expecting a lot from Shamar. So I'm gonna tell you this. Me and my brother Trevor Sycamore were very, very good pals, and we had a conversation. I asked him, this was before the Bengals draft, and this one I got when the Bengals even interested in him. I said, is Shamar Stewart really this good, bro? I said, because the stats don't back it up.
All right,
he's disruptive on tape, but there's nothing. He said, dude, this dude is an absolute specimen. He is an absolute freak. He said, and it doesn't matter who gets him. This is before we were talking about the Bengals stuff. Because he asked me the day before the draft, we have a text between us. He says, Malik, who are the Bengals drafted? He said, because you're my Cincinnati guy. I said, Shamar Stewart, if he's there. Shamar Stewart is the pick, from what I'm being told. He raved about Shamar Stewart. And he said, if he can clean up, he's raw. If he can clean up the little things and finishing ability, man, is he going to be a problem for this Bengals defense. And when I look at it, I said the one thing that the Bengals were just missing on their defensive line, just hear me out, guys. The one thing that they were just missing on their defense is a guy that can get in the backfield, not named Trey Hendrickson, a guy that's a disruptor on their defensive line. That's what Joseph Osai was missing. That's what Miles Murphy is missing. Can they just get a guy to get back there? They have a lot of good, and Logan, tell me if I'm wrong. They have a good amount of cleanup guys.
Uh-huh.
They have guys that can clean up.
Yep.
But you talk about a guy that can just absolutely like get it started, get the ball rolling. They didn't have that before Shamar Stewart.
Nope.
Besides Trey Hendrickson, they didn't have that, and now you have that. You have a guy, and the crazy thing about this is, you now have a guy in Shamar Stewart that you can move around the defensive line. He's not stationed one place. And that is so valuable to have in the National Football League. And I know people get into the testing and say he tested as the best defensive end prospect ever, as a more athletic Myles Garrett. But you look at how the Browns use Myles Garrett. They move him all around the defensive line.
He was crossing up our center last year.
Man, like you just have visions of that. What could Shamar Stewart be? He makes it's weird. When you watch Shamar Stewart play, he makes watching defensive end work fun. And I love defensive end work as it is. I love rushing the passer. I love that. But he makes it fun. That's when I was enthralled by the whole, hey, the little what's the Euro step he was doing.
Yeah.
I was enthralled by that. I said that shit is fun, man. Like this is a guy that's that confident in his power, in his speed, that he can do that. He could break that out on the football field. He's that confident in what he's going to do to your offensive line. The Bengals now have that, right? You put that in together with Trey Hendrickson. I think Trey Hendrickson, remember, Trey Hendrickson was getting a lot of pass rush, was getting a lot of opportunities to get towards the quarterback. And remember, he was getting held. He was getting hit. Remember that, guys, a lot last year? Shamar Stewart's going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
Shamar Stewart's going to benefit a lot from that. And Trey Hendrickson is going to benefit from that as well. I think this Bengals defensive line, I think we could see an increase in uptick in the sacks from our interior pass rushers. I really do, because I think that when you got guys like Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson rushing from the edge, it just falls right into the lap of guys like a Miles Murphy or guys like Chris Jenkins or guys like a BJ Hill. You know, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I'm going to say as well, we talked about this on the show, but it's not even the amount of sacks that he, and you brought up the great point. It is, what does he do? And I think disrupting, that's the name of his game. And necessarily you want players to finish sacks, but a lot of times, a lot of these BJ Hill sacks last year, a lot of these interior sacks are because of other guys. And that's the one caveat about the sack, the sack stat is a lot of times somebody else forces the sack and somebody else gets credited with it. So I'm not even concerned about Shamar's sack production, but hey, just watching it, can he be disruptive at the NFL level? And if the answer is yes, year one, that is something I'm not confident Miles Murphy's doing. I'm not confident Joseph Asai is doing. So if he can do that, this defense would look fantastic.
And guys, if the defensive line is able to get that amount of pressure, yes, then to answer your question, where do we think this defense can go? I think this defense could provide a lot of turnovers. I think this is where a guy like Geno Stone would actually thrive, right? Yeah. Because it's when you sit back in coverage and you're able to pump fake and you're able to make him, switch directions and stuff like that. That's where he struggles. But if you are out there, you're making errant throws and stuff like that. Joe Flacco is going to give you opportunities to week one. That's the thing. Yeah. He's going to give you opportunities. You're facing a pocket passer week one that is not mobile at all. No. You're going to have the ability to sack the quarterback. You're going to have the ability to rush the passer at a high level. It's going to be interesting.
We had a question from Michael Roth. He asked about the offensive line. Don't we need to add at least one more offensive tackle for depth? Should we BS in as 3 for offensive tackle?
I mean, I think they probably, whether we like it or not, view Cody Ford and Rivers as your backup tackles for in-game scenarios. If in an event where Orlando misses a week, Mims misses a week, then that's when they elevate, our tackles that we waived and got back on the practice squad and feel comfortable with. Is that the right process? Probably not. But Cody Ford's been average enough. Yeah. Rivers is still young. Like, it's probably not the best process, but I think that is the process.
For sure. Gary Jellison said, will Shamar Stewart have more sacks this year than he did in his entire college career? What was the number for college career? 4.5? What do you think this year?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yes. Yeah. I think if he gets I'm not going to say. I just think that Joe Flacco is a very good matchup week one. That is what I'll say. A pocket passer week one against, I think he will have opportunities. And I think it wouldn't shock me if we're like, damn, he was so close to it.
I hope he gets snaps.
Week one?
I hope. I hope.
Listen, they're going to drop back. The Cleveland Browns are going to drop back and to give you pass rushing opportunities. He's going to get snaps week one. He's going to get snaps week one. And depending on how it looks, I mean, he could absolutely go out there and flop week one. Who knows? But I don't think that should make them be like, hey, you know what? That's not. I want to know what his numbers are going to come out. How many sacks Shamar Stewart's going to have this season? I'll bet that line. I'll take a little shot on it. I think Shamar Stewart. I'm going to go on a hill this week. I'll say it. Because do you remember last year, Logan? I said Dax Hill was going to do blah 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 blah, and he was doing it before he got hurt. Yep. I'll go on a limb. I'll say right now, I think Shamar Stewart has a sack and a half week one.
Wow.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'll say. I
I
think
like
he has
that.
a sack, and I think he shares a sack with one of the defensive tackles week 1. But
I
I
like
think
that.
I think he'll have a sack and a half week 1 against Joe Flacco, with a lot of hurries. I think he's going to grade very well.
Yeah. Question from Darnell Wynn said, does Tinsley get any significant run, or is he primarily there in case of injury?
He's there in case of injury.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
the guy. Love the story. Glad he's here. But
Damn.
I don't see him playing a big factor in the team
Damn.
unless injuries happen. Maybe if Burton's still a little banged up heading into week 1, maybe gets a couple snaps. But I don't envision that being the case too much, especially with having 5 tight ends now as well. I don't see the room for him.
Somebody said, Steve Smith said Galen Rivers is going to be a really good starting guard in this league. The thing is, I just don't know if the Bengals see him as a guard still. I think they really see him as a tackle.
I mean, I like the thoughts though. I think he could be as well, but like Malik said, it doesn't matter if they don't play him as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if we'll be able to get to see him as a guard right this season, but somebody said, may the sack prediction not be like the double Gesicki touchdown prediction. Good Lord, the frustration was so real. Man, he almost had it.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I was right. I was right about Gesicki though. I said he was, and I think Gesicki's going to put up even bigger numbers for the Bengals this year. I really believe. I think he's still going to be around that 700 mark, and I think he's probably going to have like 7 touchdowns.
Well,
That's what I think.
Didn't you almost have was it week 1 that he
Week
had
1.
the Patriots?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
they
was
said
too.
it was out, and it was actually in, and they came out after the game, and they said it should have been ruled a touchdown.
That was good odds too.
Man, listen, and yes, they still disrespect him. Those numbers will still be bad this year.
Yeah.
Those numbers will still be bad. But will Gesicki get a touchdown? I don't know.
Joe Burrow passing touchdowns is going to be easy this year.
Man.
1.5, 2.5. Ryan Sparks said, historically, 5 sacks is a good season for a rookie edge. Shamar gets that. We should be happy 1,000%. 1,000%. You look at, we were just looking, Jared Verse at 4.5 last year. 4.5. The dude was the defensive rookie of the year?
Yeah.
But he, stat wise, 4.5 sacks. So I think we should be ecstatic if Shamar is. I think for me, my line and my bar is, hey, is he playing significant snaps entering the playoffs? And if he is, that is a win.
Wait, I didn't realize Jeremiah Okusu Karamoa is. They said there's some reports out there he might not play again.
Yeah.
That's
I heard his
why.
neck real bad.
That's why they
Yeah.
drafted what's the name, Carson.
Carson
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger.
he's freaking a monster.
Wow,
But yeah, it
that's
sucks.
not. That's
He
not
also
good
had
news.
injuries in college or something.
He's had a neck problem, man.
Yeah.
It sucks. That stuff
Oh,
always.
He was
so
good.
He's so good, man.
He was so good.
He's so
dude.
talented.
He
Yeah.
was so good.
Question from Michael Roth, or he just said, watching clips from camp, Stewart is terrifying. Elite bend, needs better hands and form escape, but totally. I think in camp it was very clear that he was
Who's this?
Shamar Stewart, that he was the best, most explosive
He's
pass
just
rusher.
athletic. He's a freak. That's really
Yeah.
what it
If
is.
he wasn't looking like that, I'd be concerned.
Mhm.
That's what he's good at.
P. Crawley said, over under 150 Cleveland rushing yards week
Cleveland.
1. We just don't know who's the running back. Dylan Sampson, rookie.
Under.
I
150
would-
is a lot.
yeah,
by the way.
it is a
And
lot.
2, hopefully they're losing most of the game. So I under 150 is a lot. Will they crack 100? Yes, probably.
They got a bad offensive line right now.
Run defense shouldn't be our problem. Especially Slayton should get a lot of run early. Knight is good at coming downhill. Miles Murphy, good run defender. Chris Jenkins, good run defender. Obviously, that's I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves too much, but
Yeah.
I'd say the under.
Yeah.
I see Fire 12 said, how do we feel about Dylan Fairchild this year?
Dude, I'll be the first to say I was very, 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 very disappointed in the Dylan Fairchild pick. But he has been way better than I could imagine coming out. The traits were there. He had a lot of the stuff that our offensive line coaches liked, the wrestling background, doing all these fun, unique things. My qualms with him were always just Jared Wilson was always going to Dylan Fairchild's side, going to Dylan Fairchild's side, going to every single time. And, it's starting to see that was more because Tate Ratledge was also just that good. And he's going to help one side or the other. And they just chose that side. That didn't mean Dylan Fairchild necessarily was a bad player. He just isn't as good as Tate Ratledge, which is still can be fine and true. But again, that doesn't make Fairchild as bad of a player that I may have perceived him to be. The upside, the tools, and everything has been there with him. And he seems to be a guy that fits with the Bengals, which is so important. The offensive line, we'll still see how he plays, but the fit, and I see what they like with him more now than I have in the
For sure.
Somebody said, Malik, does Gesicki or Fant have a better season than Eifert ever had? I think Gesicki could be the one to challenge for it. I think Fant is probably going to be around that 500, maybe, guys. What do y'all think?
Let me see what Eifert had highest for his career.
Had a really good year.
Oh, yeah.
Eifert with the Bengals.
Oh, I don't know if he'll break Eifert.
615.
That was the most? That's the most he's ever had?
Think it hurt a lot.
52 receptions, 615, but 13 tutties.
He's not. Mike Gesicki is probably not getting 13.
Won't get 13.
He got that with Andy Dalton.
He can break
13
that.
is crazy.
He can break that yardage mark fairly.
Well, wait, didn't he break the yardage?
probably
Gesicki got
did,
665 last
Gesicki-
year.
Yeah.
What's the most Eifert's at with the Bengals?
I believe it was,
was
6.
What we just said.
615?
Yeah.
So he broke it last year.
Yeah, that's the best tight end season I've seen.
He would
That's
not have
it.
13 touchdowns. So,
Yeah.
I mean, shit, maybe, but that'd be sweet. But Mike Gesicki is a good player. His
Mike
role
is-
last
Mike
year
is-
is going to be great.
Yeah.
He's going to do the same thing. I don't expect him to take a massive step forward or a massive step behind. What we got from Mike Gesicki is awesome and perfect, and he's going to give it to us for 3 more years. And I'm so excited about that.
Yeah.
Somebody said there's a Malik conundrum. Fant or Gesicki, they can only be one. There can only be one. They better keep both, but just as a thought exercise. Well, luckily we don't have to think about that because Gesicki's under contract for the next 3 years.
Yep.
And Fant can play himself into getting a contract from the Bengals, and I can't expect it to be too overly massive because, that's just how the NFL works. Hey, if he winds up having a resurgence career, he's been around the league, been bounced around Seattle Seahawks, Denver Broncos, and you're able to put up great numbers with this offense. Why would you stop? And again, the cool thing about this is the Bengals don't have anyone to pay, so they'll be able to again shell out money to keep this kind of ball rolling a little bit to a degree. If they chose to, if it pans out that way.
Yeah, and I'll even say to that point, looking at it's, I hate to simplify it like the running back position, but the tight end position, a lot of people would have success in this offense. Tanner Hudson, I think if he was the de facto starting wide receiver, he is a shoo-in for 500 receiving yards every single season. So if Fant gets in, he is going to look like a top 10 tight end. I'm very confident because it looks that easy when you're with the Bengals. But I think Gesicki, it's clear the pecking order is Gesicki, Noah Fant, but whoever's out there, you're getting one-on-one coverage.
Well, I actually envision. I think Noah Fant's gonna be the starting tight end. I think Gesicki's gonna be lined up more in the slot role. In the slot
think
role.
so?
I think so. I think you are going to see Gesicki and Fant on the field at the exact same time together. I fully expect that.
Do you think Fant plays more than Yoshi though?
Oh, as a tight end, yeah, as a lineup. Gesicki wasn't really lined up a lot as inline tight end too much last year because that was sort of the dirty grunt work. And I think there's a world 100% where you see Fant lined up at the tight end role. You see Gesicki lined up in the slot. You got T and Jamar on the outside, 100%.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic four.
Yeah, I mean it's and then like you can like I said, I think they're going to see a lot of football together on the football field as long as both guys stay healthy. I think because think about it, you got if you're a defense, where my mind goes as a defensive minded guy, right? These two guys are offensive gurus in their own right. Where my mind goes is if you're a defensive coordinator, you're trying to take away Jamar Chase, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're also worried about T. Higgins obviously beating you because the 50-50 ball is more like more of a disadvantage when T. Higgins is out there. So you're worried about the Bengals prime receivers, but then you got the attention being to a guy like Mike Gesicki in the slot running his routes. Everybody's worried about that. And then you have freaking Noah Fant.
Yeah.
There
ain't nothing you can do.
You have Noah Fant as a check down. And then when you think you have that covered, well, don't forget they have a running back coming out of the backfield and Chase Brown. Visibility. And here's the one thing people always forget. Joe Burrow's rushing yards. When you think you have it all figured out, they change the question. So there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be the Bengals are going to be daring a lot of teams to blitz them this year. The Bengals are going to be daring a lot of teams to blitz them this year. And then when you choose, hey, we're rather sit back in coverage. Well, Joe Burrow is the most accurate quarterback in the league. Yeah. So then you get diced up that way. But when you think you have all the answers, if you don't have that pass rush is able to just close in on that pocket, well, Joe Burrow has the ability to escape the pocket and make a run for it. Like there's just so many facets of this Bengals offense you have to now worry about, man. Man, if this, I agree with you, Reformed. Now he said if this offense is in the top 5, it's disappointment. If this offense is in top 3, I'm disappointed.
There ain't nothing respect. Or let me stop saying that. When you look at this offense with Joe Burrow on the field, there ain't nothing you can do. I think the only thing, if I'm a defense, he is too good to expect your team to hold him to less than 21 points at a minimum. The only way you can defeat quarterbacks like that is you obviously force them to play from behind. So you got to score points, but you have to get pressure with 4.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Like that is the only way you can consistently beat a quarterback like that is you get pressure with 4, because a quarterback like Burrow is going to dice you up if you blitz him 3 straight times. It's going to happen. Yeah. So he is too good. And with all reports about him in camp, with what we've seen in preseason, he is firing on all cylinders. Yeah. If you're a defense, you're looking at your defense line and saying, hey, you guys have got to get home. So,
like I said, man, I think that this offense could be special this year, but it's all going to come down to how do they perform as a cohesive unit. Here's a talk that nobody's talking about this season, guys. Nobody's talking about this, but we need to talk about it. Special teams unit. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the offense. We've expressed our concerns about the defense. There's been no talk really about the concern from Darren Simmons' special teams unit. I think Wagner winning, the fact that there was an actual battle for the long snapper. You know what that tells me? They said, we need to get better at long snapper. We needed to get Evan McPherson's confidence back, and we need to make sure Ryan Rico is in a position to where he feels confident. This is the Bengals saying, you know what? Our special teams unit is going to be a strength of ours this year. Yep. That's what they're expecting. Remember, the Bengals lost a lot of games last year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the special teams unit failed them last year. That's something that's not being talked about. But we need Evan McPherson to look like the Evan McPherson of old. We need Zach Taylor to have the ultimate confidence to say, hey, you know what? 55-yard field goal, send Money Mac out there.
Yep.
57-yard field goal, send Money Mac out there. Send a 60-yard field goal, is the weather getting away? Send Money Mac out. That has to be the mentality. If we get the Evan McPherson that wasn't of last year, I think the Bengals feel a lot better about their special teams unit. If the special teams unit is an upgrade from last year, the Bengals win a couple of games. So I'll take that.
And you're in the playoffs. So that was the margin last year. It was 1 game. Yeah. You're in the playoffs. And another thing too, I think it was very surprising. I mean, the Bengals have had decent kickoff returns as well. I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Charlie Jones had the touchdown last year, but like they've had a couple games every single season where it's like you're getting some good returns. And I think whether it's Charlie Jones, Burton, whoever it is, I think that they've got a big opportunity to continuously just keep helping the Bengals out, because special teams is such a small margin. And if the circle is, you circle Evan McPherson. If he is the one, if he's on, it makes it so much easier.
Can I tell you, I'm really excited about Ryan Rico, though. Hopefully we don't got to see a lot of him, but man, I'm really excited about him, man. That to have a weapon at punter, that is that's underrated, everywhere. Man. They haven't had it in a while. They haven't had his like we saw that man boot a 72-yard punt last year. Like, you need that in the National Football League, because no team is able to score every single drive, right? For whatever reason. No team's able to score whatever, but the ability to flip field position, man, that was the difference of the AFC Championship game. Last time they were in it. Like, the ability to put it all together, and the fact that they finally have that, man, you got to feel very, very good about that, man.
For sure. Question from, I believe it was Jacqueline Hyde was talking. If this offense isn't top 5, that's enough of a reason to turn up the heat on Zach Taylor. I think the bar is
win.
Yeah, playoffs. Like, if you don't make the playoffs, like,
nah, you gotta do more than that.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. But
it's got to come together this year. But I think that's all the time we got. Listen, we've been live for an hour and 48 minutes, and that was all without Evan. Wow. Listen, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Almost 300 of you guys are watching us live on the YouTube channel, right? Man, if y'all aren't excited for football, I don't know what this is right here, because it definitely seems like you guys are excited for football. We've got over 300 people watching us here, and we've got about, I want to get the number correct, almost 1,000 people watching us on Twitter live right now. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. We greatly appreciate you. We're excited to be back fully locked and loaded. The Sit Down Morning Show is back next week. We're locked and loaded. We're excited. There's so much to talk about, so much to get into, and we will do just that. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. We're super excited for the Bengals' upcoming football season. Lots to get into next week as we break down and we prepare for the Cleveland Browns, and we all give our prediction, because football is back. Football is back, and me and the boys are really excited about that. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next time, and until next time,